everyone out here is gambling.
One pill can kill. It's the message the Drug Enforcement Agency is sending to college students. How the state of Ohio is working to end the opioid crisis. Plus, beating the stigma. What parents can do to keep a closer eye on their child's mental health. And National Minority Donor Awareness Month is coming to an end, but one fitness instructor is beginning a major celebration. You can be a part of that. We will tell you how. Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us here on Face the State. I'm Tracy Townsend. A new initiative from the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, is revealing how drug networks are, in their words, flooding the U.S. with deadly fentanyl, and that does include our state. In Franklin County, data released earlier this month from the coroner's office shows overdose deaths from fentanyl increased between 2017 and 2021 by 13%. This past spring, the accidental overdose deaths of 2 Ohio State University students put this issue of fentanyl use in college students in the spotlight. And right now, Ohio State students are back on campus for the fall semester. Well, this year, the university started a new drug and alcohol prevention program that promotes health and safety. You know, the reality is there are hundreds of families impacted by fentanyl deaths in our state each year. One Central Ohio family is sharing their story with 10 TV's Lacey Crisp.
It's not worth it. It's not worth the chance.
Anthony and Jeannie Lafferty's son TJ was the life of the party.
He'd come up and he'd just joke with you. Constantly, every day. I mean, it didn't matter if you was sad, glad, he was there. Yeah. He made you happy.
Well, he was known for occasionally smoking marijuana with friends. His parents say the 31-year-old would never try fentanyl.
But they had found over
2,000 milligrams.
2,000 milligrams of fentanyl in them.
Michelle Spahn is the assistant special agent in charge of the Columbus District Office of the DEA.
4 out of 10 of the pills that we're seeing that we seize that are submitted to our lab for testing contain a lethal dose of fentanyl.
The DEA is warning that cartels are lacing drugs like Adderall and Percocet with fentanyl, all in hopes of hooking students. Students may take these drugs thinking it will help them study, but even one of these pills can kill.
Back in May, Columbus Public Health and Ohio State safety officials issued warnings about possible Adderall pills laced with fentanyl on campus. That same week, police were called to a home on East Lane Avenue after a 911 caller claimed her roommates were overdosing.
I just came downstairs and one of my roommates and 2 of her friends are passed out.
21-year-old Tiffany Eiler and 22-year-old Jessica Lopez both died of fentanyl overdoses in that incident. 2 of 17 suspected overdoses on the same day in Franklin County. Eiler's dad opened up about his daughter's death in July.
So she took her last breath, and that was it. So I never thought I'd see my daughter and take her last breath. I thought she'd bury me.
Rich Eiler says he didn't know there was a fentanyl problem.
You know, that's not the world I lived. That's not the world she lived in.
But it's a world the DEA says everyone needs to be aware of today.
And that's why it's important for parents to have this conversation with their kids, not to purchase anything on the street because you don't know what it is. It's like playing Russian roulette.
Spahn explains the DEA confiscated enough fentanyl in the U.S. just last year to kill every American, just like TJ, Jessica, and Tiffany. Right now, the DEA says drug poisonings are the leading killer of Americans between the ages of 18 and 45. The warning now, one pill can kill.
If you think you want to try it, I'm just telling you now, go hug your mom and dad because it's going to be the last time you're going to see them.
In Columbus, Lacey Crisp, 10 TV News.
Overdose Awareness Day is Wednesday. You can discover more resources by calling the Ohio Addiction Hotline. The number is at the bottom of your screen. Ohio is making it easier for families to get access to affordable drug addiction treatments. State finance experts estimate that opioid misuse by a single family member can cost up to an additional $35,000 per year. It's why state leaders launched the Recovery Within Reach program.
With this campaign, Ohio's financial advisors will be taught to spot the warning signs, and will realize that the people affected by opioid addiction are not always those who have the substance use disorder.
The new program will extend financial education to experts and those impacted by substance abuse disorders. You can find resources at recoverywithinreach.ohio.gov. This week, President Biden announced a sweeping plan to help Americans pay off their student loan debt. Biden is extending the repayment pause through the end of 2022, as well as forgiving up to $20,000 in loan debt for qualifying borrowers.
No one with an undergraduate loan today or in the future, whether for community college or a four-year college, will have to pay more than 5% of their discretionary income to repay their loan. That's income after you pay the necessities like housing, food, and the like. You currently pay 10%. We're cutting that in half to 5%. People can finally crawl out from under that mountain of debt, to get on top of their rent and their utilities, to finally think about buying a home or starting a family or starting a business.
Okay, here's what it takes to qualify for the $10,000 forgiveness. Make $125,000 or less a year and have those student loans that are federal. Plus, if you are within that income range and also received a Pell Grant, you can seek forgiveness for up to $20,000 off of your loans. Some Ohio State University students are already responding to the president's announcement.
Well, I'm taking about 25 to 30K a year in loans to be here, and coupled with my loans from undergrad, I plan to be over $100,000 in debt when I graduate. And so, I mean, 10K off, it's not changing anything dramatically about my life situation.
So I've racked up a lot of debt, and it would be a huge financial blessing to get rid of at least even a little bit of that.
The Congressional Black Caucus, which is led by Ohio's 3rd District Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, are also weighing in on this loan forgiveness plan, saying it will provide much needed relief to black borrowers. The Congresswoman and the caucus pointing out that debt keeps black borrowers from building intergenerational wealth. Meantime, U.S. Senator Rob Portman does not believe President Biden's forgiveness plan is going to help. In fact, he sent a statement to our newsroom saying it's unfair to those who already paid off their debt and those who did not get to go to college. Well, whether you agree with that plan or not, there are some questions about how it's going to work. Casey Decker with our Verify national team explains whether you need to do anything to make sure your loans are forgiven.
President Biden just announced a plan to wipe out a chunk of student debt for millions of Americans. Broadly speaking, people making under $125,000 a year can get $10,000 in student loans forgiven. But a big question that we've gotten from several Verify viewers: do I have to do anything to get my loans forgiven, or will this happen automatically? Well, the Department of Education says it'll be automatic for about 8 million people whose income data the agency already has on file. That's most likely to be the case if you're already on a repayment plan that's based on your income, since the department already has your info to make those calculations. For everyone else, there'll be an online tool where you can input your financial information. Not sure if you fall in that 8 million, that same tool can help you figure it out. So when will it be available? All we know right now is the department says, quote, in the coming weeks, and definitely before the end of the year. But you can get notified when it goes live by signing up at ed.gov/subscriptions. In the meantime, all federal student loan payments remain on pause through the end of 2022. And that eventually loan servicers like Nelnet will update your balance to reflect the canceled debt. One more thing, this only applies to federal student loans, meaning if you have private loans, those aren't forgiven at all. With your Fast Fact, I'm Casey Decker.
And don't forget, if you have something you'd like us to verify, contact us on social media or send an email to verify@10tv.com. The general election is just 3 months away. The race for governor and the U.S. Senate will be the main focus in our state. A new poll shows the Senate race is a close one. The survey conducted by Emerson College Polling shows Republican J.D. Vance is ahead of Congressman Tim Ryan by 3 points among very likely general election voters. 10% of those surveyed say they are undecided. And in the race for governor, a Trafalgar Group poll has current governor Mike DeWine, the incumbent, in the lead. Polls show DeWine is ahead of Democratic challenger Nan Whaley by about 16%, and about 10% of those surveyed there say they are still undecided. Up next this morning, an update to a 10 Investigate series, Caught in the Cycle. A teen foster child is accused of stealing a car, then hitting and killing a Groveport, Madison woman. What happened this week that could bring answers to her family. And it is a stressful time for students and their parents. We're tackling mental health challenges at the start of a new school year. Mental health is top of mind as children head back to school. Some parents say they struggle with conversations about mental health, and they're really looking for answers to know perhaps when is the right time to start the conversation and what do you say. 10 TV's Kiana Dyches went to a mental health expert for some answers to help beat the stigma about addiction and recovery.
We went to Dr. Amina Kamavor. She's the Vice President of Advocacy and Engagement for the Alcohol, Drug, and Mental Health Board of Franklin County, also known as ADAMH. What types of behaviors will let you know that your child has a mental health problem?
Behaviors could look like eating more or less than they used to, sleeping more or less than they used to, possible behavioral changes at home or at school, like in the classroom. Academic performance changes.
How can you help children deal with mental health challenges, especially as the school year starts?
Communicating with your child on a regular basis, to and from school, extracurricular activities, learning how to have difficult conversations that, over things that could be happening in your child's life, staying in touch with their teachers, their education staff, their coaches.
How do you know when it's time to reach out for help from a professional for your child?
It's really important to just trust your instincts. You know your child, be observational about how they're experiencing their world. What is it that they may be going through right now? Have they recently suffered a loss? Are they processing a breakup? Are they processing a friendship that maybe, didn't go the way that they had intended?
Are certain age groups more vulnerable when it comes to mental health challenges?
Mental illness can, start to show in early childhood as well as those teen, very formative years, most notably the age group of about 18 to 25 years old. But mental illness and addiction does not discriminate, so no one gets out of this, right? This is something that could happen to any of us at any given time in our life.
What should you do if it appears your child has turned to substance misuse to cope with mental health challenges?
Just take a breath. First, take a beat and kind of process what you suspect is actually happening and doing some of those observational cue checks. What is your child experiencing in their life right now? Is there genetic factors that may be contributing to this suspected use? And in addition to that, if you decide to approach your child, do it from a very non-judgmental, open, no blame lens. We want the best possible outcome of that particular conversation.
Kiana Dyches, 10 TV News.
And 10 TV has partnered with the Ohio Opioid Alliance to help beat the stigma surrounding mental health and addiction. If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health or addiction, or you want to know more about the stigma surrounding them, visit beatthestigma.org for more information. Right now, Yelp is working to make it easier for women looking for abortion services to actually find them. The web-based app is introducing a new label that distinguishes between reproductive health care providers and what are known as crisis pregnancy centers, which have come to be known for having staff and volunteers who try to convince women not to terminate pregnancies. Yelp will have information that reads on those that says provides limited medical services and may not have licensed medical professionals on site. Yelp says its new system will help distinguish crisis and faith-based pregnancy centers from medical health care providers. The federal government is extending waivers for baby formula. Families who purchase formula through nutrition benefits or WIC will be able to continue buying substitutes for their regular formula. The plan was originally scheduled to expire in August, but now the USDA says it's going to be available through the end of the year, the end of 2022. Abbott says it will cover the costs for families who have to buy alternative formulas. Let's go now to a 10 Investigates update. Cedar Point is asking the Ohio Supreme Court to dismiss a lawsuit filed by 10 TV and our sister stations in Toledo and Cleveland. We're asking for additional information from Cedar Point's police department about the sexual assault complaints the department investigated. Our reporting this summer uncovered how since 2017, Sandusky police have investigated 29 sexual assault reports tied to the employee dorms. Women we've interviewed said they felt let down by the park's response. Others told us they were discouraged to come forward. We filed a records request with the park's police department, but never heard back. Cedar Point's police department has sworn officers with full arrest powers who go through training with the state. 10 TV's attorneys argue that because of that, they should be subject to public records request. 10 Investigates also exposed problems within the foster care system in our state. This week, we learned a teenage boy in foster care will face charges for a crash that killed a 58-year-old woman. Chief investigative reporter Bennett Haberly has an update on one family's journey and quest for accountability.
447, tell fire to step it up.
A teenage boy in foster care behind the wheel of this stolen Mercedes now faces charges, including driving without a license and aggravated vehicular homicide for this crash last October.
Ma'am, stay with me,
41
okay?
45 on scene, 41 block of Chatterton.
Stay with me.
That killed 58-year-old Paula Kennedy. A tragedy her daughters say was preventable.
It's hard. I think that it doesn't change that we still lost our mom. I kind of feel like if we would have, or not we, but like the state would have intervened sooner in charging him when he originally stole like the first or the second car. One, he would have been receiving a consequence on just stealing a car and not killing someone.
This is the third time that he's done it, and he killed somebody. You know, somebody who was very, very much loved in the community and was huge. And not only my family's life, but so many people's lives, you know, and now she's gone because of, you know, children's services not doing their job.
The fatal crash illustrates how even those with seemingly no connection to the foster care system can be directly impacted by those caught in its cycle. This crash marked the third time in a year that the teen had been caught driving illegally. The first happened in January, when he was accused of driving through a school soccer field. That charge was dismissed over the summer. Then in September, he's accused of stealing a minivan from a foster home in Dayton. But a delay in charging him in that case meant he was assigned to a new foster home, where after a short stay, he's accused of stealing this Mercedes. 10 Investigates also found numerous police runs dating back to the foster home where Franklin County Children's Services had placed the teen, raising questions about the scrutiny given to foster care placements. That foster parent told us last week he's no longer fostering children.
It's one of those things where it goes back to it's almost too late. I feel like we should have been asking these questions and monitoring these homes before big things happen.
The family's hoping for additional policy changes so that their story doesn't become someone else's. Bennett Haberly, 10 Investigates.
And to watch our previous reporting, go to 10tv.com/10investigates. Stay with us after the break. We'll tell you how you can get your groove on while helping other Central Ohioans. And it's hard to think about winter right now, but guess what? ODOT is. What change they are trying to make to get more snowplow drivers behind the wheel. The Ohio Department of Transportation just got nearly $25 million toward road improvements. This round of funding will cover the US 6 connectivity corridor and the Sandusky Bay Pathway. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg says that means your trip to Cedar Point could get a little easier. The project includes replacing intersections with roundabouts.
There's so many people who rely on this corridor every year. Commuters heading to work, tourists and locals alike going to Cedar Point. I've had some fun explaining to my non-Midwestern friends what Cedar Point is and why it matters so much. Families visiting nature preserves with kids on the weekend. And yet for too long, that journey has been more difficult and more dangerous than it ought to be.
In 2026.
The project also includes a shared path which will separate cars from pedestrians, making it a safer way to travel. All right, so if you like snow and you're looking for a new job, the process to becoming an ODOT snowplow driver getting a little easier. You know, usually you need a commercial driver's license or CDL to apply. This year, you don't. ODOT's hoping to avoid a snowplow driver shortage by opening applications up to everyone who's 18 or older with or without that CDL. Now, if you don't have a CDL, ODOT says they can hire you if you're willing to stick with them for 2 years.
So the hope is that if we can bring them in by August or September, then you're trained and ready to drive a plow, hopefully by December or January. Here in Ohio, we really start to see those heavy snowfalls between January and March. So the hopes is that we bring them in soon.
Training takes about 4 to 6 months. You can apply by going online to transportation.ohio.gov/jobs. Growth spurred by the Intel plant really is just the beginning. You know, there was a critical conversation this week about housing and creating strategies that will allow more people to experience that housing equity and affordability here in Columbus and Central Ohio.
The mayor was very clear, this is not just a city of Columbus issue, and that those number of units cannot just occur within the boundaries of the city of Columbus, but they need to occur regionally. And we need all of our regional partners to start to decide how they're going to build new units in their community, how they're going to add a diversity of unit types into their community so that you can have your residents aging in place. You can have young people come into your community. All the different ways in which we've sort of siloed housing and made it so that you don't have those options within individual communities.
That's Erin Prosser, who's the Assistant Director of Housing Strategies for the City of Columbus. She was part of this powerhouse panel, which included Patty McClyman from Nationwide Children's Hospital and Otto Beatty III, who's the president of the Otto Beatty Companies. The conversation took place Wednesday at the Columbus Metropolitan Club luncheon over at the Boathouse Restaurant at Confluence Park. All right, we can all agree that the COVID-19 pandemic was life-changing. When you consider the global quarantine and its fallout, job losses, business shutdowns, and virtual everything, families suffered from the virus itself, and then there were those other mental and physical setbacks. The Way Back called for some candid conversations and novel connections, including this one between Lifeline of Ohio and hip-hop fitness guru Mike Nicholson. All right, stay with me here. The partnership fell into step at the Polaris Fashion Place with this fitness event called The Movement. This was at the height of the pandemic. At least 500 people showed up to join in this hour of fitness and connection to the outside world with a workout outside. Organizers say the initial goal was to offer a safe venue to people and protect their physical and mental health. Well, they are bringing it back on Monday. That's just tomorrow, August 29th. They're going to do this at 6:50 in the evening. This time it's all about promoting Organ Donation Month. It's National Minority Donor Awareness Month. Lifeline of Ohio and M. Nicholson Hip Hop Fitness will be in action, in step, with the first of a 4-week session of outdoor dance fitness. This is happening at CrossFit Future at 6788 Kilowatt Circle in Blacklick. Right there in the parking lot. It's free, it's open to the public, and it'll be great to get some fresh air and some movement. We hope you are able to enjoy that. We are certainly glad that you were with us today. Thank you so much and have a great week.